Thanks everyone for joining the PowerShell and OpenSSH community call. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, you sound great.
Cool. All right. Jason posted the agenda in the chat and a reminder of where you can find all of our past community calls, our code of conduct, a contributing guide, some agendas, and place where you can put the questions and stuff. So feel free to put the questions there. We'll start off with a Platy PS update from Jason. Jason, do you want to take it away?
Well, sure. Well, thank you. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. So a Platy PS update. Now, I actually want to talk about this for a second, and I have a little demo to show you. But let me give you the TLDR real quick. We're going to ship Platy PS by the end of the year, but hang on, I got more details. So first of all, those of you that already know Platy PS, probably, I hope you find this to be welcome and exciting news. Those of you that don't know what Platy PS is, let me kind of give you a couple of the problem statements that Platy PS is looking to help out with. First of all, one of the biggest problems, and this is what the foremost, I think, problem for Platy PS is that if you're a module author and you want to add help to your commandlets and stuff that you've been making, that's great. You can use comment-based help. But if you want to have updatable help, like the cool kids at Microsoft kind of thing, the PowerShell updatable help system specifically wants you to write that help into MAML. Now, I don't know if you've seen MAML or not, but let's just say that it's very hard to author in and you don't want to do that. So MAML is one challenge that you have to overcome. Another challenge is, and I just kind of throw this out, if you've noticed those beautiful PowerShell documentations on the Learn platform that Sean and Mikey and Mike work so hard on, with all of the PowerShell help, in order to render all of that, what has to happen is all of the help has to actually get generated not into MAML, but into YAML. Now, for the publishing system to be able to publish it. Now, that's easier to author, but still not exactly quite a whole lot of fun. So what the solution here and what Platy PS tries to do is to try to make your life a little bit easier with this. And that's, you can author in Markdown. That's easy to write in and easy to deal with. And then what Platy PS is going to do is transform that schema-based Markdown to, well, in our case, MAML and YAML. But I'll get to that. It's even cooler. And that doesn't really sound like a hard problem to solve. But when you start to add scale to it, and this is the kind of the cool part, when you add scale to it, it becomes a little bit more challenging. See, it turns out that we use Platy PS ourselves. We use it on the Learn Docs pipeline. In other words, not just for all of the PowerShell content, but all of the teams that produce PowerShell content. Platy PS's job is to make those conversions so that we get that beautifully rendered YAML and we get that MAML into cabs so that you can have that as downloadable, updatable help. So every night, this process has to go on a larger scale. So there are features that you want out of Platy PS. There's things that we want out of Platy PS. Let me just kind of give you what we did. First of all, if you go out to, I'm going to drop a couple things into chat. If you go out to the PowerShell gallery and you look up Platy PS, you're going to see that the current version for that is Platy PS version 0.14.2. Let's now refer to this as classic version of Platy PS. That's going to continue to work. It's going to continue to be out there. Life is good. Everything's fine. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to release, well, let me just drop it into chat here so you can see it. We're going to release Microsoft.PowerShell.PlatyPS version 1.0. And some of you might be going, well, wait a minute, why didn't you just take the classic Platy PS and just release that as 1.0? Well, let me put it this way. PowerShell.PlatyPS version 1, this is going to be a breaking change. So hang on. What are you going to get for this? Well, what we did is we sat down and we re-looked at this problem and we did a redesign from the ground up on Platy PS. Because like I said, not only do you need to use it, but we need to use it too. And we focused on three, particular points that I want to kind of talk about or show you real quick. Those were performance, scalability, and usability. Now, when it comes to performance and scalability, that was a big focus. And let me just say it's faster than grease lightning. But here's what I want to try to do. I want to try to show you a demo. So it just so happens that Sean Wheeler and I were doing some validation work this morning on Platy PS, and we just happened to record this. So there are two things that I want you to see out of this that we're going to do. We're going to we're actually going to import all of the PowerShell modules so that we can create all of the Markdown using Platy PS for all those modules. Now, at that point, with that Markdown, you could edit it and all that kind of stuff. But then in the next example, we're going to take all of that generated content and pretend that we're going to send it to our publishing system and convert it all to YAML. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure command on all that so you can see what the time is. Let me go ahead and share my screen and see if I can run this without screwing this up too much. Here we go here. So let me just go ahead and start this. And what you can see here is this is where we're grabbing a list of all of the PowerShell core modules so that we can quickly grab hold of them. If you take a look, we're doing a measure command. We're going to take that module list. We're going to make sure that we're selecting the unique ones because Sean and I both have multiple versions of the same thing. And then we're going to generate the new Markdown command help for all of that into a folder. So as soon as this guy, oh, there it goes. It's starting to run. And it's going to run through and it's going to do that. And what I want you to notice is how long it takes for it to go from 0 to hero and generating this Markdown content took about 7 seconds. And that's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, I think that's cool. And here's where we're going to take that generated content, like we have to do at night, and make sure that it gets turned into YAML, or in your case, if you're a module author, converting it to MAML. And as you can see, it takes, well, about a second at scale to do it. So kind of cool, kind of sort of cool. What do you think? Is it kind of cool? I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. Anyways, let me also talk about the usability side. So not only do we work on performance and the scalability of it, one of the most important things was to focus on was usability. And if you've worked with Platy PS in the past, you may have kind of noticed the commandlets were a little bit weird. You had a handful of commandlets, and each commandlet did a lot of stuff. And sometimes that made things confusing and reduced the flexibility of what you could do. So part of the redesign and the re-engineering is all the commandlets got reworked. Before they were rather monolithic, now they're very monady. And what I mean by that is each commandlet does one thing, it does it really well. And what this does is this really opens up the flexibility for your scenarios and the way that you can use this. In fact, you might find that while we've set up converters to MAML and YAML, you're getting, this is now all on the pipeline. And we now generate a complete command help object that moves through the pipeline. Hey, you can do your own thing with that. You can make your own converters. You might find other scenarios to use this with. So part of making the commandlets very monady was to open up that flexibility and those scenarios for you. Now, let me get to the part 2. When does it ship? Well, I said at the beginning that it'll ship by the end of the year, but let me kind of be honest with you. My engineer on this during the redesign has been Jim Truer, and he's retiring next month. So guess when we're going to ship? This also gives me a great opportunity to thank Jim Truer for the amazing work on Platy PS, but also just his entire career working on PowerShell. So I want to thank Jim for all of that and for the great work on Platy PS. For some more information on this, now look, we're going to have, when we release, Sean's just been chomping at the bit to release a whole bunch of documents on this, plus scenarios, all that. We'll have this great blog post announcement. But in the near term, and I know Sydney's going to talk about this in a little bit. If you happen to have a chance, stop by PSConf EU, the mini conf that's coming up. Like I said, Sydney's going to talk more about it. Jim's going to be doing a discussion about the design and the design changes, the internals in detail. So that'll be a great place to show up and to learn more about some of the changes that we made to Platy PS. So look forward to showing it off for you more later after we get it out and we release some documentation. So thank you very much. Thanks, Stephen. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. I think the next up is Sydney for the PS Resource Get release.
Yeah, I'll take the next couple of items. They all go together. So I did want to bring up that we had a recent release of PS Resource Get. It was a preview release. I'll put the release here in chat. One call out on this release that would be great thing for folks to go ahead and test and give us feedback on while it's still in a preview stage is a new commandlet and feature that we introduced in this release, which is called Compress PS Resource. And this pairs with new functionality in Publish PS Resource, which allows you to compress your module into nupkeg form, and then pass that, you can, sign then your nupkeg and pass the signed nupkeg into Publish PS Resource and then pass it on to your endpoint. So that's kind of a new functionality of Publish PS Resource to be able to take in a compressed module rather than a path to a folder. So that's now in preview. So go ahead and check it out. Can we get expand PS Resource? That's what install does. So install PS Resource expands it. And since install already works with file systems, I don't think that there's a need for expand, but if you have a compelling reason, feel free to open an issue, James, and we can talk about it. Second thing that would also be great to get feedback on while we're working on it is we're currently thinking about a feature that's been asked for a long time, which is how can I at scale register repositories and also sort of create an allow list or /deny list. Right now, we're just thinking about it in terms of an allow list for the repositories. And so we're solving this initially with group policy. I have an issue open kind of describing the approach that we're planning on taking. We're starting development on this very soon. So if you do have feedback on it, would be great to go ahead and read the issue, give us some feedback. And while we're in preview stage as well, it would be great for folks to test that out and give us feedback as well if you think that would be useful as well. And I think those were my 2 items. So I will pass it on. I think, Michael, you might be up next on the agenda.
Yeah, thanks, Sydney. Mine is actually really short. I just want to remind everyone that PowerShell 7.5 as work in progress is coming near GA. So we expect later this calendar year that PowerShell 7.5 will reach GA and will be the next shipping version of PowerShell. But perhaps more importantly, a reminder that PowerShell 7.2 will reach its end of life on November 8th of this year. So as everybody transitions towards 7.3 or 7.4, if you're on the long-term stable branch, that 7.2 will reach end of life, and we welcome the new release of 7.5. And I think that's it from me. I will actually hand it back to Sydney to discuss Minicon.
I think Ryan has his hand up.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Ryan.
Ryan, go ahead if...
You're on mute if you're talking, Ryan.
Yeah, joys of microphone not unmuting. There's an open issue for upgrades from 7.2 to 7.4 at the moment in the repository. Is that something that once 7.2 becomes end of life, that we're going to have an auto upgrade functionality to 7.4?
That's a great question, because I actually was going to add to that was for Microsoft Update, we are going to upgrade those on 7.2 to the 7.4 LTS, latest LTS, but we won't be upgrading them to 7.3 or 7.5. We'll just go from LTS to LTS. That's in our plan.
I'll continue adding that into the issue.
Could you link the issue? I don't think I've seen this one, so I'd be happy to add details there.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know why I'm responding, but I think I'm the next item, so I was just kind of ready to go. Anyways, so I think the next item was Minicon, which has been referred to. Minicon is a conference that's put on by PSConf.eu in the fall, and it's virtual and free to attend, but you do need to register. So I'm going to post a link in the chat. Registration is at that link there, psconf.eu. And the reason why you need to register is so that you can get a link to the platform since it's all online. I will be presenting there, talking about how we're building trust within repositories in PowerShell. I think Michael's going to be doing a session on DSC v3. Jim's going to be doing a session on Platy PS. And then, of course, there'll be many community members giving sessions as well. So it's a great way to connect as a community coming up in about a month here on October 15th. That also reminds me that there was a couple of questions in GitHub on the discussion that I was going to answer about PS Resource Get. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. So if you hadn't seen, there were two questions in the discussion about PS Resource Get. The first one is related to moving the install path out of OneDrive and when that might happen, given that it's a highly requested feature. What I can say about this is that we have triaged this issue as a high priority for us in the 7.6 timeframe. So we've been having active discussions within the team as to how we can solve this problem as recently as today. What I will do my best to commit to is getting a proposal up on GitHub in terms of our design, probably in the month of October, but really the time frame we're looking at to get that change in would be in the 7.6 time frame. It's certainly not going to happen in 7.5, but we're aiming to make that change in the 7.6 time frame. So we understand it's highly requested and working on it, but would love community feedback once we get the proposal up. So hopefully I can come back in the next community call and be able to point to an issue there. I know there's a number of issues already open as well. Second question was the status on PowerShell Gallery moving modules into MAR, if that's still happening and if there's a preview available. So what I can say about this is in the latest previews of PS Resource Get, support for ACR is already available. So what ACR is, Azure Container Registry, is the sort of private instance. So you can stand up your own container registry and publish your modules there, that sort of thing. In terms of having Microsoft-owned modules into MAR, this work is still in progress. You'll see if you look closely at the changelog that there were some changes that we made in the last preview to help support MAR. So look forward to this coming very soon in the next few months. But yeah, there's still changes that need to be made. And it will be a long haul effort to get all the modules kind of moved over to MAR. So expect that to not happen overnight, but we are working closely with partners to make that happen, and work is in progress. That's all I have to say.
Great. I think next is Steve for a quick DSC v3 demo.
Yes,
Steve, are you
hold
ready
on.
to
I'm
go?
just replying to chat stuff. All right, let me share my screen real quick. Let's see which one. This one. All right. First thing is we did ship out preview 10, I want to say earlier this week. So even though there's a small window, it doesn't matter what is actually in this window. I just want to highlight that the previews are published to the Microsoft Store, making it easy to install and get auto updates. So do play with that and give us that feedback. And before you look on the rest of the screen, we are trying to get like a release candidate out next month. And then depending on customer and partner feedback, maybe a GA in November timeframe. But that might slip depending on the feedback that we get from partners and customers. Okay, so what I want to show you here is actually some new stuff that is actually post preview 10. So there's not in the current release, but part of it is merged. So if you build the main branch, you'll get it. The other one is actually still work in progress. But I wanted to show a change that I made in the WMI adapter, because I think WMI, so for those who don't know, like I used to work on WMI like a long time ago. All right, one of the first deliverables I worked on was a NT4 out-of-band package for WMI. But anyways, that really dates me even further than anyone else. But what I'm showing here is like WMI has a lot of classes that can be used. So what you can use here, and this is YAML, right? But you can also do it in JSON. Is a example set of configurations. So I'm starting to build these things, and the idea is that this will ship with DSC itself, so you can actually use it as is after you install. So you have something useful that you can kind of use, and also build on top of. But anyways, this is a example inventory. So this is right now. So the WMI adapter only supports get, so you can't do sets or method invocation yet. But for get, you can still do like inventory, right? So WMI has a lot of stuff. So here, if I skip down to the bottom here, you can look at. I'm going to get went to a computer system. I'm going to get the name of it, the domain, the machine is joined into. This is a VM, by the way, that you're seeing here. Physical memory is some other information. I'm also going to query went through the operating system, system enclosure, BIOS, and network adapter. And the one thing that there's two things you may notice. One is there's a list of properties with no value. So these properties are basically informing the adapter you only want to get this information, these properties from these instances. This last one does have one value 2 in here. It is because all these other ones above are what's in WMI terms called singletons. There's only a single instance that doesn't even have a key. Network adapter obviously can have multiple network adapters. Network connection status 2, I happen to know. In fact, I should probably add a comment in here. Connected, yeah. So if I were to run this, right? So let's see, not the baseline one. I'll do that second. Get P configurations inventory, right? Then this is going to run, and it's going to find the WMI adapter. It's going to run through all those classes, and you can see it's relatively quick. And by the way, we've been working on a bunch of changes for caching. So things with DSC v3, even using PowerShell resources over and over, should be much faster than if using the older DSC. But in any case, you can kind of see some information about the VM I'm running here. Some serial number stuff. Again, none of these are really that interesting because it's all Hyper-V anyways. But you can kind of see that network connection status 2 returned the one NIC that I have on here, which is, again, it's a virtual network card. But you can kind of use this. The other thing I'll mention real quick on top here, this is leveraging also the assertion resource, which I've done talks about in other venues and also at PSConf.eu, I think. Basically, this, like, if you run the same configuration on Mac OS or Linux, then it'll fail early on because this assertion will fail. It won't be Windows family. So the other one I wanted to show real quick is, and this is a work in progress because this is not small. So Michael had actually pointed me to some policies and configurations used by Azure Machine Config. It's in the GitHub repo. So it's all open source, and it has a large set of checks in terms of, hey, this is what we think the baseline security profile for a Windows system is. There's also one for Linux, and I'll try to do that later over time, but this is not a small work item. These are like MOF files. So I've been manually so far just kind of porting over some interesting stuff. So for example, here, I checked that, let me see. I checked that the RDP port is 3389. I checked that SMB v1 is disabled. The Windows Search Service apparently is best practices to disable it. And then there's also ensuring that Windows Defender also scans removable drives. And it's a little bit confusing because the way you do is you have a thing to disable it. So just make sure that the disable is disabled, meaning that it's enabled. So if I were to run this one, let's do the search instead. What did I call this thing? Baseline, yeah, okay. Again, I'll do a get. There's a problem with test right now that I found as I was doing this development, which I will try to fix later. But you can also see, you know, I have the assertion, make sure there's only running on Windows because it's using the registry for a lot of this and won't work on non-Windows. It's saying that I have to do elevated because some of the registry checks requires me to be admin. And basically, you can kind of see this information, right? So, of course, get is not as going to be as interesting as test to validate that your system is meeting the baseline security. But again, I'm hoping that I will get a initial version checked in the repo, and then hopefully the community can help me kind of build it out over time to get a more complete baseline configuration that you can use to audit your systems using DSC-v3. That's pretty much it. Yeah, group policy. Oh, by the way, one other thing that we are, it won't happen for 3.0, but maybe for 3.1 timeframe, is having an adapter for group policy so that you can have a single view for everything. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Steve. I think the next up is Alex. Alex, do you want to give a brief introduction and then share some of your feedback on WAM?
Yeah, yeah. Let me share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Yeah, okay. Hello everyone. My topic is some feedback and updates on the warm features. Yeah, we can go to the warm feature. So warm feature refers to the ability for the user to interactive log into the to Azure through Azure CLI and PowerShell. Actually, we conduct a long preview phase for the preview testing before May 2024, but we haven't received a lot of feedback and issues. In the 2024 build event, which is in May, we will start the warm functionality by default for the users who upgrade to the latest version. So we can see the version of the Azure CLI and the PowerShell below. After the new version is released, some users will gradually upgrade to the latest version. And we have started to receive some issues with warm not working properly. For the known issue list below, we quickly provide a mitigation solution which mainly affect the interactive login flow, and other automated authentication flow do not affect it. Yeah. Like manage identity, also like a service principal, something like that, not affected. We can see what happened in here. On the May 21st, the Azure Client Tool team, we released the new version for CLI and PowerShell both, and one feature is enabled by the default. So after release, we just received the issue on the social media and GitHub repos, and the issue include like PowerShell login using the device code, and username and password login are affected. And also we received the issue is incomplete warm login page and failure to the pop-up window. After successful login, no command line can be run. So all of the issues we received at the same time, and we immediately, we can go to next page. We immediately to investigate how many users were affected. So first, I just share some data in here. We can see from the OS level, the most Windows users use the Azure PowerShell. So if the warm encounter issues, impact on the CLI is minimal, but for the impact, CLI will be more wider. So secondly, for the Azure PowerShell, it only affects the interactive login part, so which actually accounts for the, you can see in the red block, 2.9% of the data in the past 3 months. So it's basically number of the this is basically based on the number of requests. So the scope of the issue impact is further narrowed. And another data is we checked and curate the failure rate of the interactive login in the week before and after. So you can see this rate is increase from the 1.13% to the 3.35%. So it means from the May to August, at the same time in the May to August, the number of the disabled warm user, you can see the right the chart. The number of disabled warm users has been a growing trend. So in the end, we found the user who use interactive login in the latest version, and almost 100% disabled the warm feature in the Azure PowerShell. So the scope of the influence CLI is very small, just the 1%. Yeah, we can see that data. And also, I can share some customer feedback in here. So we quickly receive a large number of negative comments on the LinkedIn or Twitter, technical blogs, and user satisfaction survey, and from the GitHub issues. Yeah, and you can see from the survey, it can be seen that the detractor rate of the Azure PowerShell towards login authentication has been increased rapidly. Yeah, you can see this is the orange line for the Azure PowerShell is increased. Okay, and so for the known issues list and progress below is a summary of our known issues, which is a result or provide with a workaround in the July release. So there are mainly 2 P0 issues and 3 P1 issues. So all of the issues already have the workaround solution. All has been already fixed. So you can see I just put the status in here. Okay, we can go to the next one. For the lesson learning from the current issues with the worm, we also have some lesson learning that requires, for example, like build automated test case and test case baseline to improve the test coverage. And also we will consider shift left the pipeline, build a monitor mechanism and record the telemetry error codes. But this is required collaboration with the MSL team. Yeah, and for the next line, for the P0 issues, CLI already has been solved all the issues, and CLI already for all worm features will be fully released. For Azure PowerShell, we will fully testing before the prepare to enable worm in the Ignite. There are still some P1 issues that have a limited impact, and we will continue to work with the MSL team to solve the issue. After waiting for all issues to be resolved, we may consider post a public technical blog for the issue. Okay, that's all for the worm update. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. I think there's a question in the chat, but it looks like I think Jeremy answered it.
Yeah.
And this is only for Azure, right?
Correct.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks. I think we're at the end of our agenda. If anyone has any last minute questions, I am pulling up the discussion page again, just in case I missed any other questions. I know Jordan was going to demo, but he had to postpone. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to add it in the chat or, oh, I see a hand up. Jeremy, do you want to add anything?
Sure. Actually, I didn't put my item into agenda because it's very quick, short, and I'm from Azure CLI. Hopefully, it's not sounds like an outlier for PowerShell community, but I do want to call out the feature that we released a couple months ago. Actually, it's called the tab compilation. So you can actually use the Azure CLI and PowerShell that you can enable this one. Which means you can just simply press the button, press the tab key. So it will give you the indication of, the command, the parameters to help to save the user's time and effort to avoid remembering specific argument and looking up into the documentation. If I recall correctly, it's available since Azure CLI 2.49. I can share the documentation here. And 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure how many folks here are maybe touching on the Azure CLI and PowerShell, or maybe heard this feature already, but here is a quick how-to for switching it on to try out. That's it. That's from my side.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. James, did you have a question on this?
Yeah, I mean, question / offer. Tab completion would be great. It would be even cooler if it was also possible to send output from the Azure CLI directly into PowerShell as objects. This is something I've done with a few applications. As long as you support generic JSON export, it's a pretty easy set of tricks to write in PowerShell. I'd be happy to take it offline if you'd like. But it would be very, very nice if a Microsoft project did that out of the box. It would be a huge example of what PowerShell can truly be capable of. And we get to have our CLI cake and our object pipeline too.
Oh, definitely. I appreciated that advice. I think I can open the connection with the dev team on this one to wrap it up into the PowerShell object.
Yeah, I'll try to ping you and set up some like FAQs on the how. It's something I've done a few times now.
Happy to talk. Feel free.
The only other thing for the general community I've got, if you want to get a look at some of the stuff in the lab, is I've been playing a lot with commandlet adapters in the past few weeks and refamiliarizing myself with an ancient part of PowerShell that it seems like most of time is forgot. Wouldn't be the best demo probably at this community call, but if you are all hoping for some form of demo, it would be something.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions, I guess, first before we jump into the demos? We may want to keep this one a little shorter just because I know it's late for a lot of the folks on the West Coast. So, but we'd be happy to have that demo for next month. If you
Yeah,
wanna
I'd rather the
prepare a little
time
bit
to
more.
get it better for
Yeah.
next month anyway.
Then no
So,
problem. We'll save that for next month then.
all right.
Cool. Well, I think I vamped enough, so well, thank you, Glenn, for the nice comment. Yeah, hopefully this time we'll probably keep this cadence, or we'll talk with our team to keep the cadence of once every 6 months, so we can accommodate those in the Asian and Australian time zones. But yeah, I think we can probably wrap things up here. Thank you everyone for coming to the PowerShell community call. Yeah, and if we'll see you guys next month. Next month we'll be at our normal time, which is 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then going forward we'll have that until 6 months from now, which will be March of 2025. So with that, I guess we'll end off here. Thank you everyone for coming.